What's going on, everybody? Dan with Right Now Powder Coating, and in today's video we're going to learn a little bit more about me. So I was recently invited to be on a videocast podcast deal called Building in a Small Town. I will put the links below with Shelby Smith, but I've gone ahead and I've kind of clipped it up a little bit and threw a video together for my channel. So if you've ever wondered where I came from or how I got into powder coating or how I make things work in a small town, it's a great video to just pop in those earbuds and listen to. You don't necessarily need to watch this one. It's just two people talking. So I will put her links down below if you want to see more of her content. And then if you want to be on my channel where we interview other powder coaters and small business owners, send me an email at dan@rightnowpowdercoating. Please be in business at least 2 years, I'd say, so that we can get some good information out of you. So let's get into it.
Welcome to Building in a Small Town, where we're talking to entrepreneurs, community leaders, policymakers, and more to find out how they're building things in small towns. I'm your host, Shelby Smith. 100% battery. We are good to go. All right. Hello. Welcome back to Building in a Small Town podcast. Today I am welcoming another Collins business owner. There are a few of us. There are not a ton of us. But there are a few of us, since I'm Dan Fitzpatrick of Right Now Powder Coating. Not necessarily neighbors, but I can see out my front door. So
you can see everyone from our front doors.
What are you trying to say?
It's a small town.
It is a small town. But so thank you for joining me today.
Yeah.
I really do appreciate it. I want to start off with just your background. Like, you didn't grow up in Collins. You're not a Collins native. So where'd you grow up?
Didn't even know Collins existed until I found the building here. So I kind of came from all over. So I was born in Storm Lake, which is another semi-small town. Lived there for a little bit, and then we lived in Newton for a while, West Des Moines for a while, moved to Lincoln, Nebraska for a while, moved back to Urbandale, West Des Moines, so mostly Des Moines area, and then went to school at Iowa State, and then got married and moved to Minneapolis for a while, and then moved back. So
Okay. So Storm Lake's up there, northwest Iowa.
yep,
Okay. So you know Willie's from up that way.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he's Armstrong Ringstead. So
Don't even know where that's at.
You shouldn't. You shouldn't. They were like Collins Maxwell, and they play 8-man football.
Oh, okay.
They don't have enough kids.
Right.
So you should not. But he's northwest Iowa as well.
Yep.
I say he's basically Minnesota, but that's a different conversation for a different day. So, okay, so you were kind of all over the place. What did you major in at Iowa State?
Hospitality management.
Interesting. What was the plan with that?
So I was a pre-business major and found myself on academic parole because
You do?
the classes were really big and not interested in that. I'm very much a learn with my hands and be able to apply what I'm learning. So when I got onto academic parole, they put you in with a counselor and they're like, what's going on? And so basically I told her I wanted more ways to apply what I was learning to a business. And so she goes, well, hospitality would be really good because you're learning how it works in hotels and restaurants and golf clubs and all that kind of stuff. And so when I got into that, everything started clicking and I was able to get through the rest of it. So we got our grades up and graduated in 4.5 years, but
Close enough.
right.
Close enough.
Never
See,
used the major, though. Not used it once.
Not directly.
Directly, yes. Yeah, I've never worked in the hospitality industry. So
Yeah. So with that degree, then were they sending you out like on internships? Were you actually in restaurants and things
well,
like
I worked at Hy-Vee like from the time I was 14. So I was an assistant manager up there, and then I worked in the kitchen for a while because we had to do like, I guess they call them internships, but I actually worked at a hotel for 6 months, and then I worked in the kitchen. So I kind of got the hospitality in the hotel area and then in the restaurant side a little bit. So I think there was only one semester though that you really need to do that, and the rest was just typical classes. So.
Yeah. What was it like working at a hotel? Were you like front desk?
Yeah. So I worked at a Fairfield Inn. It only had like maybe 70 rooms. So if you worked that middle shift from like 3 to 11, you were by yourself. So there was no, maintenance guy. That the manager was gone about 4 o'clock, and then there was no housekeeping or anything. So you did everything. You checked people in, you plunged toilets. It was horrible. I would never want to do it again. So,
Well,
and you got paid like minimum wage. So,
of course. Yeah. And
but you're running the whole hotel and they're paying you as little as it possibly can.
yes.
I'm a lot nicer to those people when I go to hotels because I know what they're going through.
Especially during that time period. You're
Right.
like, I know you're on your own and I'm
Yeah.
really
Well, and
sorry.
especially in those small hotels because you don't
Right.
really need a big staff, but yeah, they put a lot of work on you.
Nice.
Yeah, not really.
So then you graduate from out of state in your
Yep.
4.5 years. And then what's next?
So my wife, we were engaged at the time. She worked for General Mills up in Minnesota. So I moved up there and worked for an insurance company. So I've always been into like vehicles, and I raced for a little bit. So, my dad worked for an insurance company, Farmers, and he's like, well, they have claims jobs up there to, be a claims adjuster for auto. And I'm, "Oh, okay. Well, so I went up and interviewed, got the job, and I did that up there. So, I was an auto adjuster for 6 years, and then when we moved back, I just transferred down here. And I've always kind of wanted to be an entrepreneur and start my own business, so I always had my eye out for something because I wanted out of that industry. It's not, you're kind of hated by everyone. Have you ever wrecked a car or had to deal with an insurance adjuster?
So I've never wrecked a car. The only insurance adjuster that I've had to deal with was from our lovely hail damage. Yes, that we had this year.
Yeah.
And so, but you're right. Now that I think about it, like an insurance adjuster is kind of like, same thing with the cop. Like you don't call a cop on your best day,
Right.
in your best moment.
Yeah.
Like your insurance adjuster is
Right.
not showing up after the best thing that's ever
Right.
happened to you.
Yeah, and it's a frustrating thing in your cars in the shop or whatever it is, but you're also, if people read their policy, it wouldn't be so bad because it says for like kind, and quality parts, but everyone assumes you're just going to put brand new OEM parts on their car, and when you don't, they get mad at you. So your customer hates you, your boss is mad at you because you're not doing enough of that. So like you're just hated by everyone. Who you work for hates you, and who you're servicing hates you. So I think at one time it was like one of the top 10 most stressful jobs in America or something like that, or at least I made that up, so I felt better about it. But yeah, it's stressful. It's not a lot of fun. It's the same thing over and over again. So
Yeah. So you talked about growing up liking cars. Like when did that start? Was that like an out of the womb sort of a thing? Like as soon as you could?
I think it was that whole nurture thing. So in Storm Lake, where I didn't grow up there. I was there through like first grade, I think. My dad's cousin owned a Chevy dealership up there, so we would go there like Saturday mornings, and I was just like, that's where we were. Like the smell of a garage, like where they do the mechanical work, is like one of my favorite smells in the world. And I think it's just from going there with my dad on like Saturday mornings. So that's probably where it started. He's always been a car guy. We're big Chevy guys, big Corvette guys. I have two of them. So I'm not like an overall car guy, but I do like car shows. I like looking at all brands, but I'm definitely specific to that Chevrolet brand. So.
Yeah, you definitely have the brand loyalty.
Yeah, we have a lot of Chevys.
And does that come from, that's like family legacy?
Yeah, I mean, there was a dealership in the family. Like one of my trucks has our name on the side because I bought it from there. They sold the company a few years back, but it was kind of cool to have a car with your name on it because that's a dealership. So, yeah, it's always been Chevy. And growing up, it was like, if I don't buy a Chevy, what are you going to do to me? He's like, disown you. Like it was a joke, obviously, but like we always talked down on Ford and Dodge and all that. And if you talked about Honda, he's like, you buying a mower or what do you buy? So it was, I mean, we don't hate any brand per se, but it was definitely grown up with Chevy. So.
You didn't have a choice.
Yeah, not really, but I didn't want one. So.
Yeah.
The bad part is now my wife doesn't have a choice.
Yeah.
She's like, that Jeep looks really cool. I'm like, does it have a bow tie on it?
Yeah. Doesn't look
No.
that cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Very good. So then after Minnesota, you guys obviously moved back to Iowa. Did she change jobs and you guys ended up down here? Did you?
That's actually how we were able to come back. So she worked for corporate General Mills, and then there's a plant down in Carlisle, just outside of Des Moines. They do like the flour, so all of your cookie mixes, pancakes, biscuits and stuff. They produce all that there. So there was a quality engineer position that she applied for and got. So she was able to come down. So we were like, okay, that's good. And now I can try and either find a job or transfer with Farmers. And luckily everything fell into place where I was able to transfer. So the goal is, her family's from Sioux City, but my whole family, which is rather big, was in Des Moines, and now her parents live here. We knew that would happen. So it was good to get back. I don't miss Minneapolis area. It's just nuts up there. I definitely prefer a town this size versus a town that size.
Yeah, definitely. That in Minneapolis weather is just, it's a different level of winter up there.
Yep, it is. Absolutely.
It's only 3 hours north, but like I feel like
you lose like a whole nother month to winter.
Yeah. And just exponentially more snow, it feels like. So I just,
It's always 10 to 15 degrees colder. And
Yeah.
I remember like my parents would be like, oh yeah, it's 50 here. I'm like, it's 20 up here. What the heck? Like this is not a good thing.
it's 20 up here and it's the end of April.
Right.
Like, yeah.
It was that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You definitely lose a lot of time to winter up there.
Yeah, that, no, thank you. 1,000% I will pass.
Yeah.
I'm half Texan. My mom's from Texas, so I prefer warm weather.
It's
But-
not here in Iowa. Don't be confused, but yes, it is
No.
better.
No, it is better. And it's just spoken like a true northerner, but it is definitely better.
Right.
So then you came back, you were with farmers some more, still doing the auto adjusting
Mhm.
thing. And
Yep.
then at that point, were you like really being like, I am looking for an out?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, I had kind of had the idea of starting my own business, and I don't know, like when you got into your thing, but you have no idea what to do or where to start or where to look. And it's like, okay, what are you passionate about? What do you want to do? And with that hospitality management degree, I'm like, well, I know service pretty well, like the food side and all that. And so I was actually looking, weirdly enough, into like opening a Papa John's in the Altoona area. And then, I mean, I got their disclosure document and everything. I don't know, 1,000 pages of paperwork to go through and stuff. And when they're like, well, where would you want to open one? And this is like well into it. Like we're 2 months into doing our due diligence. And then I'm like, Altoona. And they're like, no, you're too close to the Des Moines one. And I'm like, okay, what was that? And so I looked at probably 6 or 7 different franchise restaurants. And I was getting kind of discouraged because of all of that paperwork you had to go through. They had all these hoops you had to jump through, and the money is insane. The amount of money it takes to open one of those is just nuts. And so I started looking into other stuff, and then I just kept working. I was actually at a body shop in Ames, and when someone damaged a wheel, we would send them to a place in Chicago to refurbish it. So they'd fix the damage, paint it. And this guy pulls in and he's like carrying a wheel out, and on the side of his van it says alloy wheel repair. And I'm like, I asked the guy that worked there, I'm like, what's that about? And he's like, oh, they fix our wheels for us. And I'm like, I didn't know that was a thing. So I researched that company, and it was a franchise out of Des Moines. And I was like, that's kind of cool. You can go like fix these things. And so I started researching more and more, and he was the only one in the Des Moines metro doing it. And the closest guy to him was in like Sioux City. I'm like, wow, this market's wide open. And so I found another franchise that offered the same service. So they basically got you all your tools, training, your trailer, and you could go out and start fixing wheels for dealerships and, customers or whoever. And I was about to sign the paperwork, and they wanted me to go to like Oregon to train, but then wanted me to go to like Washington, D.C. to pick up the trailer somewhere coast to coast. And I was like, can't I just do everything here? And they were fighting me. And I'm like, if this is what it's like to work with a franchise, I don't want to do it. And my mother-in-law, who was totally against me even starting my own business, because she's very much like, get a job. It's safer. Get a job.
Traditional.
Yes. And she was a teacher. And so she was very like pro into their teacher union where they felt safer, I guess. I don't know. But she's like, can't you just do this on your own? Like, what do you need to know? And so I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it on my own. And so that's Rimright was the prior, which I was wondering if you were going to say that or not. So I didn't know if you knew me when I was Rimright or not.
So I did.
Because everyone still calls it Rimright.
Yes. So I got to town when you were still Rimright, or
Okay.
maybe you hadn't changed the sign yet.
Right.
So what year was this when all of this was happening? Do you know?
10 years ago.
Okay. So
Yeah.
20 or
It would have been
2013, 2014.
13.
2013.
Yep.
Okay.
So we started in like September of 2013 with Rimright. So I found like a marketing company to come up with my logo, and to do all my like trailer graphics and stuff.
And Rimright was your brand.
That was my brand. Yep. I pulled out of the franchise because I was like, if they're this difficult to work with just on training,
Yes.
what's it going to be like to work with them down the road?
Yeah.
And plus you still have to pay them your royalties and all that. And I really wasn't excited about that. I'm like, they teach you how to do it once and they get money forever. Plus you have to buy your supplies from them and all that stuff. So I would talk a lot of people out of it, but I think it's a harder way to go into business because you're all on your own. You have no support system and no like prior knowledge of how to do it.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Okay. So then she started this in 2013.
Yep.
Hit the ground running. you're not in Collins yet in 2013, right?
Correct.
So then what were you like working out of your garage?
We were
Like,
working out of the trailer. So the trailer was a complete turnkey wheel refinishing factory, we'll call it. So we had a paint booth in there. We had all of our grinding, sanding tools, all of our different paints and stuff. So we would actually just go to dealerships and find curb rash on wheels and fix it for them. And then obviously we tried to market on like Facebook and all that stuff to get the retail customer too. And we did quite a bit of that. So it was the hardest part was my very first day. I was at Carl Chevrolet, which is one of the bigger dealerships. And I back in there and like another trailer backs in and I'm like, that's weird. And so the guy gets out and he's like, oh, hey, I'm da 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 with Alloy Wheel Repair. And I'm like, well, you're not the guy that owns it. And he goes, no, I just bought the franchise. So a brand new guy started the same day I did. And the guy who had the franchise dropped it and started Des Moines Wheel Repair. So it went from 1 to 3 overnight.
right.
And I was like, oh man, what a time to start a business. Like not knowing that that was going to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, it got a little hairy right off the bat.
That's right. I think a little pressure makes diamonds, as they say.
We made it.
Yeah. Well, and I think you probably as a, an auto adjuster, you have to know, there's a lot of wheels that are going to end up needing repair.
Right.
And 3 of you covering the entire Des Moines Metro.
Right.
Like that's still not like market saturation,
Right.
if you will.
Yeah.
So
And there were a few others that did it. And I kind of saw that because the original guy had the accounts and the connections because he had been doing it forever. They knew he was there. They knew he was servicing. And then the new guy had the brand that they were used to. So I was like, man, they're going to have that step on me the whole time. So I actually started going to all the accounts outside of Des Moines. So we were hitting Ames, Boone, we were going up to Marshalltown, Newton. So we were hitting all the little towns outside of Des Moines. And they were like, yeah, we haven't seen that guy in months. So I picked up every single account.
right.
Well, they sat down in Des Moines and fought over all the dealerships down there. So I don't know why I thought to do that, but it's the best thing because I probably would have been out of business otherwise. So it was very fortunate that that happened and I was able to pick up all those accounts pretty quick.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
So how long then were you just working out of the trailer? Was that like a 1-year thing?
It's probably 2 years.
Okay.
And then, well, I know it was 2 years. Good thing of Facebook memories is you kind of see where you were. 8 years ago is when we got into powder coating. So on January 1st, we started building our own oven. So, well, me,
Yeah.
we're bigger now, but we built our first oven. And then I think it was March of that year, we rented a shop in Ames. That was like 800 square feet. So
Okay.
that's where we started powder coating. Our main business was doing wheels for the dealerships because everyone wanted black wheels, and to paint them in a trailer where there's dust and debris was not a good idea. So
Makes
that's what got us into the powder coating. And then it got busy enough that we ended up buying the location here in Collins.
Gotcha. So forgive my ignorance. What's powder coating? Like, what's what's the
Right.
difference between powder coating and just like regular spray paint? Like my
Yep.
husband will kill me for this because he'll be like, because he's got like powder coated trailer or something, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I'll be like, because I'm like, can't you just fix that with spray paint? He's like, no, it's powder coated. I'm like, I don't know what that means.
Right.
So what does that mean?
So powder is a dry form of paint. There's no solvents in it. So it's a big push in it is that it's green. So you're not polluting the air with all the solvents evaporating out. It literally, I tell people it looks like a powdered sugar. So people have never seen it. They're like, well, what's it look like? And so the way they mix it is they take all the raw chemicals and the colors and stuff, and they actually put it through like an extractor that melts it and mixes it all up. And then they roll it out into flat sheets. And then those are broken up into like what look like potato chips because they call them chips. So it's like tortilla looking shapes. And then they go through a pulverizer. And so it's just a dry product. And then we use an electrostatic gun that puts a negative charge in the air. When those powder or the pieces of powder come through there, they pick up that negative charge and then they're drawn to the part because the part's grounded and they want to dissipate the charge. So that's how it sticks to the part. Whereas with liquid paint, you're using solvents to get it to stick. We're using a charge to get it to stick.
Wild.
Yeah. So it's way more green. I think it's way quicker to apply. It's way cheaper to apply. You don't have to wait for it to dry out and cure. You put it in the oven, you pull it out, and it's ready to go. So there's a lot shorter window time to get the part back on the car or back on the pallet, back to the customer or whatever it is.
And so you're talking about charges and all of that kind of stuff and the grounding.
Mhm.
So then can it only go on metal or can you powder coat anything?
The technology, so powder is kind of a newer thing. It's not like super new, but like a lot of cool things that came from Europe. So America has had it for quite a while, but it's like just kind of ramping up. So most of your like appliances are powder coated. These are probably powder coated. So all metal, obviously, aluminum can be powder coated. Anything that won't just get destroyed in an oven at like 400 degrees, basically. So,
Okay.
like I said, appliances, all that stuff. A lot of car parts are powder coated now, but they're starting to come out with technology and different ways to cure the powder where you can actually do like cabinets and, MDF board and plastic and fiberglass and all that kind of stuff. And they have a newer, I don't know if it's new, and I've never seen it or used it, but they have a UV curable powder too. So literally just put it out in the sun type of deal. Obviously they have lines that run through UV lights, but yeah, there's some cool things coming. It's just whether you, as a powder coater, if you have the money to buy the equipment and get into it.
Right. So then, okay, so the oven step is the curing step,
Correct.
essentially.
Yep.
And here's me being a total girl. The only thing that I can relate it to, and like what totally
Most people
just,
don't know what powder is.
well, what totally just dropped of like the curing thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I paint my nails,
Fingernails,
I
yeah.
have a UV light. That's
Oh,
what,
yeah.
so I
Yep.
do it's called a gel manicure.
Yep.
So it cures under the UV light.
I've got two daughters. I know all about it,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Oh, girl dad, you have to know. So that's okay. That makes total sense. And so
Yep.
then when it comes out of that oven, it is
Yep.
dry. Like
Yeah, so the oven, it melts the powder, it gels out, and when it's melting, the part when it hits a certain temperature, it depends on the makeup of the powder, but once it hits that temperature, it starts to cure out. So there's a cure window, it's usually about 10 minutes, and all the chemicals are cross-linking and creating the toughness. And so when it comes out of the oven, you just have to wait for it to cool down, and then you can touch it, you can install it, you can use it. Yeah, it's awesome. I love powder coating just for that reason. I would never go back to a liquid paint. ever.
Yeah. And so then, do you do multiple coats? Like, is it
Yep.
required? Like, is it the same as painting where like you have to prime and then paint? Like, I imagine there's gotta be a lot of prep. Like,
Yep. So the prep is pretty much the same as it would be for a liquid. And prep is obviously the most important part in any time of or type of finish. So we prep to our customer spec. So indoor parts, we're going to run them through, we have an automated line. So we hang the part on a hook, it goes to an automated washer. So it will phosphate it, which is a chemical that cleans it, and it puts a chemical etch on it. So that chemical etch is what the powder is going to stick to. Or you can do like a sandblasting where you clean it with sandblasting, and then it puts a mechanical etch that the paint holds on to. So there's a ton of ways to do it. Our line, when we run it through the chemical, is the cheapest way. So a lot of companies don't care about salt test spray, all that kind of stuff. So like if you're an indoor use, we'll run it through there and we paint it, it's good to go. If they want more like of the salt spray durability and corrosion protection, then you can put a primer on it. You could do a primer top coat, you could do a primer top coat clear coat. It's all what you want and how long you want to last.
sure. Interesting. And then I imagine it comes in lots of different colors.
Thousands.
Okay. But
There's like over 7,000 different colors.
just gonna go out on a limb and guess that your most used color is black.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like on everything.
Yeah.
It seems like you said, black wheels
Yep.
seem to be really, but then like you said, the mic stands. I think about all of the
Yep.
fixtures, commercial fixtures, all sorts of things. If they're powder coated,
Absolutely, yeah.
they're all black.
Yep. It's cheap.
Yeah, it's cheap and it's it's neutral. It goes with everything kind of
Right.
thing. So I do understand, but
Yeah.
interesting. So it goes in, and are there different brands of powders? Just like
Absolutely.
there's different brands of paints.
Yep. And a lot of your
companies?
liquid painting companies, they're doing powder. So Sherwin-Williams, Diamond Vogel, all those companies, they do liquid and they do powder. But then there's some like specific companies that just do powder, like IFS is one of my main ones. And they're all different levels of like quality at the same time. So, and powder coaters, we tend to like find ones we really like and we'll badmouth all the others. And like whether we've used them, I'm like, no, I'm not using them. That's junk. We don't want to use that. But to me, it's more like what that sales rep provides. Like, is he responding to my emails, my questions, my orders, all that stuff? So my IFS guy is amazing. He's in my shop every couple of weeks. I was on the phone with him 3 times today. And so but yeah, there's tons of options where to get it. And then they have like specialty companies that make like the metallics and transparents and all that kind of stuff. So tons of options. And I don't ever pick colors either. So
No.
when someone brings me a special project, I'm like, go to this website, pick your color, because I'm not going to get it wrong for you.
Yes, I was gonna say, don't pick the colors, don't even recommend.
Right.
Like, no, whatever you
Yeah.
want. That's always with Willie and his landscaping. When he
Mhm.
goes to someone, he's like, here's your options.
Right.
You know.
What do you recommend? It doesn't matter.
Yes.
Because
Whatever you want.
yeah,
You're the
I'm-
one who lives here.
Exactly. And you get to look at it every day. I don't.
Exactly.
Yep.
So my taste should not go into it.
Right.
Interesting. Okay, so you know, go from the trailer to then renting an 800 square foot spot in
Yep.
Ames to start up with the powder coating thing. How'd you get to Collins?
Price.
Fair. How did you find Collins?
So I was looking for a larger shop because we were kind of getting beyond just wheels, and it's crazy in powder coating when people find out you do it, everyone's like, oh, I got this, I got that, so we were doing a lot of little projects for people, and you know, motorcycle guys always want their stuff done, and car guys want their stuff done, and then like people with appliance, they're like, can you do this hood for over my stove? And it's like, yeah, is it metal? We can do that. So it just spreads, and we're like, okay, we need a better, more professional oven, which won't fit in this building. So I started looking at different properties for sale. I've always been a buy guy. I don't like to rent. So I don't know if that makes sense with you in your business, but it's like, if I'm going to pay rent to someone, it might as well be myself and earn that, or just build the equity into the building. So I knew I wanted to buy, but I didn't have hardly any money. And so we just kept looking and looking, and I found it on Craigslist, and I was like, Collins Island, I have no idea where that is. So right to Google Maps, and we looked it up. I'm like, okay, I live here. Collins is here. That's 30 minutes. I'm going to Ames. That's 40 minutes. That works. So I came, and it was a long process to buy the building because the city owned it, and it had a lot of termite damage, and they wanted a lot of money for it. And so,
Or, yes,
yeah.
the state it was in.
yes, for having to replace half the building, they wanted a lot, in my opinion. So I went to a meeting and made an offer, and they rejected it because I came in pretty low. And then we just kind of waited for a month or so, and then I made another offer because it was still available, and they accepted it, and that's basically what got us here. So
And what year was that?
I think we've been there 6 years now.
Okay, so 17,
Sounds about right.
something like that.
Yeah, we
Okay.
bought it in like October. So,
Okay.
and I mean, we spent the first month tearing the whole thing apart and redoing it.
Sure.
So,
And was it, when you bought it, was it just a shell? Was it insulated? I mean, if it's got termite damage, it doesn't matter.
yeah. So, I mean, everything was still put together, but you could go, it's a pole barn,
Mhm.
you know, but it's all sheeted and nice looking because it was a fire station. But you could go to the back wall, push it, and see the grass outside. So, three of the, well, it was actually 2x6s. There were three of them put together for the post. So 6x6s, but three of them were completely chewed through. So we ended up ripping all the sheet metal off, pulling all the insulation out, and replacing three of the uprights. And the damage went all the way up into the roof joist. So we actually spliced in sections up there. And then the purlins that go between all the uprights, we basically, from the building's 100 feet wide, and the damage happened about 50 foot in, and it went all the way to the north end of the building, 44 foot to the other side of the building, then wrapped back around to the first, well, two doors. So
Of course it did.
yeah, so we have pictures. It's kind of funny because they had a men and women's restroom which we just gutted, and so we still had the toilets and stuff. My brother was working with me, and I can see the picture in my head. But we were both sitting there, and we took a selfie because you could see outside to
Yeah.
like the cars going by, and then he's like, open air concept bathroom, which I'm sure the city wouldn't appreciate it in the long run. But it was just kind of funny because we had to rip it to nothing.
Yeah.
And so you could see outside through the bath, and we weren't able to use that for a while. But so, I mean, it went through the derecho, so
It's still standing.
it's still standing. I'm not a construction guy, so I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah. Well, and so when you bought it, I would hope that the termites had been treated at that point. It wasn't an active infestation anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah, they had done a really good job of making sure. I mean, I think it'd been treated like years prior.
Sure.
But I know the way that the fire trucks work, I think they're in a co-op system. So the co-op that owned the fire trucks were very nervous about the building collapsing, which, right, that's a little bit of money on those. So they got very excited to get them moved. And I think the city Landis gave them land to put the building up. They raised a bunch of money, put the building up. It's a really nice fire station, by the way, for the town.
Right. For
Gorgeous.
the size.
Oh,
right,
yeah.
for sure.
I remember walking through and I'm like, when you guys are ready to sell us, let me know because I'm ready for it right now.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was all, they told me everything. They let me look at everything. They didn't try to hide anything in my viewpoint, which is good because it's the city.
Right.
So I think they were pretty upfront with everything. And I mean, they were easy to work with and they let me in there anytime I wanted before buying it to look at stuff. So.
Right. Especially at that time, Collins Main Street would not have had a whole lot going on.
There was nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah, they had, I don't even think that Robbie, the tattoo guy was there. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was just the bank and the wellness center, basically.
Right. Because Robbie said that he and Cypress had lived here in town for a year before he even bought that building. So he said he thinks December was his 5-year anniversary. So he's been there since December of 18.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Like to have a business like that
Oh, yeah.
and just be busy. Like he's 6 months out at all times.
He made me laugh though, because he was like, yeah, and because I got the same thing. Obviously, when I came into town, you know, you had the old boys that he said, I had the old boys come in and be like,
Mm-hmm.
do you really think that there's going to be enough people in this town that are going to want tattoos? And Robbie's like,
He's like, nope.
you're not grasping the concept of what I'm doing. And so, same.
That's actually the first thing I thought of. I'm like, okay, what questions is she going to ask me when I go on this? And to me, like to be successful in a town like this, you cannot rely on the town.
No.
And you shouldn't rely on the town.
And that's exactly what we said.
Yeah.
At least in a town of this size,
Right.
like maybe you get a little bit bigger, like, yeah, you can have more of a supporting community, like you have enough traffic in the community. But, and I think the 3 of our businesses are great examples of something that works in a town like this because we're unique enough. And we draw enough from outside because
Right.
it's not available everywhere.
Right.
Like his in particular, like he is one of one. Like,
Right.
And so like if you want his stuff, it doesn't matter.
And
if
he's
it's
so
coming.
talented.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're coming.
Yeah.
Mine, I'm one of one. Like
Right.
I'm, we're what we call location agnostic.
Right.
And you guys are to an extent too, but you're also positioned in, you are half an hour from all the like major metros that
Right.
could be around here.
Which is actually what drew me when I did the wheels, especially because we were still on the trailer. So it was easy to get to Ames and Boone and Marshalltown and down to Des Moines. And like it was centrally located. So we actually started putting less mileage on our truck pulling that trailer, just being where we were. So,
Yeah. Isn't
I
that
mean,
funny?
they had it was not knowing the town was here. It's in a very good spot.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. But it's just one of those when I say to people, I'm in Collins, like, I have no idea. where
Right.
it is.
And they always think it's so far away.
Yeah. And I'm just like, honestly, it's less than 500 people. You shouldn't know where it is.
Right.
But we're still here.
Right.
So, yeah, well, it's funny. Like I said, I imagine you guys probably got the same thing of like everybody being like, oh, do you really think that you're going to be able to do this? Or maybe they realize that you
I don't think we had a lot of that because I don't think they expect us to fix wheels for the town, but you definitely, there's people that have been here forever that are very interested in what you're doing. I won't call it Snoopy. I'll call it interested in what you're doing, but
call it Snoopy.
right. I mean, when we first started tearing that building apart and we're a lot more exposed than you were while you were here doing this because all of our doors were open. We would get lines of cars just slow rolling in front of the building, like what's going on in there and stuff. So, and then a lot of the residents would come in, oh, what's happening in here? Are you going to have this? I think the joke we had right away was we cannot put a coffee pot in this building because everyone will be in there. We won't get anything done. We will be talking to people all day. So
Yes. I could see that. And Robbie made this the point too when I was talking to him of they do that. They come in, they're nosy. They just want to know what's going on. They're excited.
I get it. Yeah.
They're excited something's happening.
Right.
They go from a completely dead Main Street to now there's something happening. So I get and I appreciate that excitement. And the other awesome thing is like that they talk about all of our businesses.
Oh, absolutely.
When they leave Collins, they're like, oh my gosh, we have this place and this place and this place. And so, I mean, but you're right. If you had put a coffee pot in there, you would have gotten zero work done.
Right.
You would have had all of the
Yeah,
visitors.
this may be the most unique small town in Iowa. You know what I mean? Just with the businesses that are here, like, how is that a thing?
Yes, it very much. And you throw gotcha games in the mix
Right.
too, and like it just.
He was here when I was here, so I forgot about that. He
Okay.
was here before me.
Gotcha. So, but you guys, yeah, you would have been the really, really early movers, and then
Right.
it's kind of taken off since there, which has been really interesting. But oh, so you bought that in 2017. When
Ish, yeah.
sometime around there, like 5-6 years ago.
Yep.
And then, so your business obviously continued to grow.
Yes.
What was with the rebrand?
It's a good question. So in 2020, when the world fell apart, I had actually, there's kind of a backstory to this. So I bought a powder coating gun. It's like in the industry, it's the gun to have. So it's Gema brand. And the sales rep who sold it to me, when he brought it, we did a demo and he left it there and I really liked it. And I called him up and like, hey, I want the gun. And he came in, he goes, hey, we're hiring for a sales position. He's like, you would be perfect for it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of doing a thing here. And he's like, no, I think you should really think about this. And so he started sending me more information on it and like what the pay would be. And I'd be this guarantee with this huge commission possibility. And I'm like, man, that's really intriguing. I'm like, man, I feel like I really got to try and do this or I'm going to regret it if I don't. So my brother was working for me at the time. And I was like, I told him we weren't getting along that great because, it's family, right? I think anyone who's ever had a small business and worked with family gets what I'm saying. And I go, I'm going to step away so we can just cool down. I go, I'm going to go do this thing. I'll still be here a lot, but you get to run this business. So like the whole 2020 year was probably not the best time. I started in March. So when everything got shut down, that's when I started that job. So I didn't really know what was coming.
Yes.
Yeah, go into a sales gig when everything's locked down. Smart. You can't get in anywhere. You can't go talk to people.
It's fine.
Yeah. But we were like, what did they call them? The mandatory or the companies that could stay open. I forget what they call it.
Oh, you were, oh gosh, what did they call it? It was
Essential. Yes,
Yep.
because powder coaters would service government. So a lot of the companies we actually sold to, they had contracts with the government to do like hospital beds and stuff because
Sure.
they were ordering so many. But
Interesting.
Yeah,
So
whole nother
powder
story.
coaters are essential.
Everyone.
I would
Yeah.
have never,
right.
would have never guessed.
So I did that for a year and he was doing his gig. And for a reason we don't have to get into, I wanted back out of that sales gig. I wasn't getting along with my manager at the time. And the sales had kind of plummeted a little. It's the first year in business that I actually had sales drop. And it was a little bit mix of me not training him right and then me not being involved as much as I needed to be. And so when I came back, I had to let him go because I'm like, hey, I need the salary that you're making. I can't keep you on. So I had to let him go. And then we decided that powder was more the future because our sales, as we repaired rims, because people were, but if you remember the used car market just started going
It
crazy.
exploded.
Yeah.
It was insane.
Yeah, and prices were nuts, and the dealerships did not have to put money into their cars to get them to sell. So they
Right.
weren't fixing, like, we know all the guys that would service lots, like do touch up and seat repairs and wheels and all that stuff. We'd walk a lot, write down 50 cars that needed wheels, and they would be like, nope, 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 nope. So it's like, okay, why am I doing this?
Right.
We're spending all this time trying to fix stuff and they're telling us no. So that trailer just had no business.
Sure.
And luckily the powder kept coming in, which is another reason we were down in sales that year,
Yeah.
which makes sense. But I kind of was like, man, after I let him go, it was me going out in the trailer again. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I really like just coming in the shop and making things look pretty and not having to deal with the dealerships. And we went from the 3 people doing it mobily to like 5 in that time. So there was so much competition, and the more competition you get, they're driving the prices down. So we went from like a $75 price to fix a mark on a wheel to like 50. And I'm like, there's no money in this. So
Right.
we sold all of our equipment to one of our competitors and rebranded because we wanted companies that needed powder coating to see us as a powder coating company because it was rim right,
And not
wheel repair, and powder coating.
Right.
And when you Googled that, we did not come up. So we
Mhm.
needed a marketable name to be able to get it in there. So we kept the rim right. We kept the right now powder coating, so it kind
Yeah.
of tied in.
Right, but you dropped. I get it now. See,
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Now that makes so much more
We,
sense.
it was 100% marketing.
Okay, well, and see, and this is small towns for you. The rumor was something about, I was under the impression, that's why I asked, like, was
Mhm.
the Rimrite a franchise? Because, you mentioned that whole franchise thing.
Right.
The rumor was that, like, you were franchised with somebody in Des Moines and now you were
Oh.
franchised with them.
Don't you love small towns?
So I said, I heard a second hand through somebody else or
I
something.
hear so many fun things about myself, and I'm like, really? I'm like, that's what people are saying about me?
Same. But in my family, I've always said, if people aren't talking about you, you're not doing something right.
Yeah. Well, I tell everyone, I'm like, what their opinions of me does not, I mean, that's their problem, not mine.
Yeah, I genuinely, people have talked about me my whole life, so
Yep.
in new place, it'd be weird. if people
Right.
didn't. I'm definitely not doing something right.
Right.
Okay, so that makes total sense. You were just kind of trying to separate yourself from being like the rim repair guys.
Right.
Like
Yep.
we are the powder coat guys.
Right. We want to focus more on that powder coating, and we kind of led with turnaround times. Like that was our goal. Like you're going to have a high quality, quick turnaround.
Right.
And so that's the right now, which it's probably going to come back and kill me because our times, we're so busy now that it's taking longer. And it's like, well, it'll be soon.
Yes. Soon powder coating.
Right.
No, it makes a lot of sense now that you lay it out like that. Good job.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay, so what is your what kind of jobs are you typically doing? Are you doing like commercial stuff, like where you do things like mic stands, hospital beds, things like that? Are you doing, I see freaking everybody pulls up their black wheeled
Right.
something.
Right.
You get a lot of those. Like,
Yep.
is it more that kind of, what's your business split kind of like?
Yep. So I would say the majority, I would say we're probably 90% commercial. So it's B2B. We do a lot of industrial type work. So we've got a good partner up in Marshalltown. They actually provide like audio video stuff. So like Iowa State University, all their TV screens and big displays for like their football team and stuff. And this company comes in and they do all the like utility boxes that are in the wall that hold all of that stuff. So we're powder coating all that stuff. But they own a company out in California that sells nationally. So a lot of our stuff actually goes to California and it gets shipped to like Europe, which is just, I'm like, how is that price effective, like for them to do that? But so we do a lot of that. We work with some automation companies that do like welding robots and stuff. So a lot of fixtures for them, big, heavy stuff. And then we do work with dealerships that want to black out wheels. So like I said before, Carl Chevrolet is one of my favorite customers. We do a lot of brand new cars because they can't get the black wheels, or the black wheels cost a lot of money from the factory. For the price of one wheel, usually we can coat the whole car. So we bring them in, strip them completely down and start from scratch. So they're basically getting a brand new OEM wheel for a quarter of the price. Right.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's kind of neat. And we're always looking for more fabrication companies, I think coating, and we help other powder coaters when they're overwhelmed. And so I'm very big into like, I don't have competitors. I just have other people in the same business and I want to get along with and I want to work with. Like
Right.
I send work to those people all the time because I'm like, my oven's not big enough or we can't get to it. Try this guy. So
Yeah.
I'm very big into working with other people. I've never understood the fear of competition ever.
The scarcity
Right.
mentality of like, there's not
Sad.
way more work than
Yes.
any of us can
Yes.
get done out there, sort of a situation.
Yeah.
Interesting. What is the weirdest thing you've ever powder coated?
A pizza.
What?
So you should probably have him on your show. Do you, Nathan, the
Oh.
magician?
Yeah, I should have him on.
He'll be funny.
Yeah.
So he worked for me for a while. He's a comedian, magician, and this actually happened while my brother was running the shop. So one day I came home, or not home, it is my home, I'm there all the time. Came back to work and it was after hours and they were just kind of screwing around. I'm like, what are you guys up to? And I walk around the booth and he's got a burnt pizza, like a tombstone type pizza laying on the floor that he had burnt. Like he told me he went home, put it in the oven, fell asleep, charcoal. And he's like powder coating. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, we want to see if it works. I'm like, stop, blow it off. We're starting over. I'm filming this. So if you go to my YouTube channel, there's a video. It's rebranded because I didn't get enough views. And I'm like, this is hilarious. Nathan actually edited it. But yeah, we powder coated a burnt pizza chrome, and it used to sit on our display wall. And then someone slammed the door to it and it fell and just shattered. So
spoiler alert, though, it did work.
it did, yeah. I mean, you can powder coat anything if you can get it hot, because even if it won't take a ground or a charge, you can just get it hot and the powder will melt on it. So I've done a golf ball, a Pringles chip, a leaf, a t-shirt, because we were just like, what can we coat? And can we get it to stick? So we were a little bit slower when we first started, so we had some time to try things.
If you end up with time, you were telling me that I do a lot of shorts.
Yep.
That's like shorts gold.
I know, but now we're so busy.
I know. So I'm saying, if you could get enough time.
We need to.
Yeah. That's like shorts.
We just hired a new manager, and I'm hoping she frees me up a lot to do, because I enjoyed doing YouTube, and I just don't have time to do it anymore because it's like work comes first. And everyone thinks you make a ton of money on YouTube. You don't.
No.
Unless you're Mr. Beast.
Yes.
You don't. And I only have like 15,000 subscribers, but
only I have 4,500, so
you'll get all you need is one short to go crazy though. Yeah. And there's a guy that makes parts for powder coating. He had like 600 3 weeks ago, and he did a video that got like 7 million views a short, because he did like a really cool looking wheel. And now he's over 15,000. And I sent him a text. I'm like, you suck. This took me 5 years of grinding, and you put up one stupid video and just blow up.
That being said, if it makes you feel any better, your money-making ability on a short versus
it's nothing.
Video.
Yeah. Well, he's not even monetized, because when
he can't be.
You have to get like 10 million views, and then you have to have so many hours.
So it's 1,000 subscribers, which he's got now.
Yeah.
But the hard thing is 4,000 watch hours within a 12-month period.
Right. But they also have one for shorts now too that you can qualify.
Okay.
So it's like 10 million views, but I don't know what the hours are.
Okay.
But that's a lot of views.
It's a lot.
But he has 7 on one video. I'm like, you'll get to the 10 million, but will you get the time?
Yeah. And so that's the thing. And so for me, like, I got to the 1,000 subscribers fairly quickly, but then the 4,000 watch hours. But at the time, and this was like before I really delved into YouTube, and I'm glad we're on this subject now because I want to ask you about it. Before I delved into YouTube, I didn't know that, longer videos, like, that's how you get more hours.
Right.
Like,
right. It makes sense. Yeah.
Sense if you stop.
It's hard to get 4,000 hours on a 30-second video.
Or even like a 4-minute video.
Right.
You know, like, that's a lot. And so that was what my channel was basically. My longest video at the time was like 7 minutes long. Yeah. And so then I started getting into like half-an-hour videos and things like that. And it started to help. But okay, so tell me about this YouTube channel then. When did you start it?
It was probably about the time we're 5 years now, so 5 years ago.
Okay.
So the reason I started is because there was really no one on YouTube teaching how to powder coat. It was, a video here of doing it maybe or whatever.
How did you learn to powder coat?
Research, books.
YouTube would have been helpful.
It would have been. There was everything on there. There was a lot of Facebook groups, but they were all giving horrible advice. Like, just things I would never do. Like, they were taking towels and wiping parts off, which leaves fiber behind, and then you paint over it and it's sticking out of it. It's like, that's why I started. I'm like, there's so much bad advice. Let's just put some good stuff. And I gave people the best advice I had at the time. If I went back and looked at those early ones, I'd be like, don't do any of that stuff I told you to do. But I have like really loyal people. Like, those 15,000 people, I guarantee 90% of them powder coat. So whereas I kind of get jealous of other people's channels that blow up, like the one guy, and I'm like, they just want to see him do cool stuff. They aren't there to learn from him. Like,
right.
So I feel like I'm actually adding value to people. And I mean, I have people email me all the time, and it's weird because they're like, I love you so. I'm like, no, stop. Weird. Not okay. And then I sell equipment now too. So I go to trade shows and people recognize me, which is super. I don't like that because it's like, they're like, hey, I know you. And I'm like, no, you don't. So it's just weird, but it's kind of cool, but it's also really weird. But yeah, so it was to teach people the skills they need for powder coating. And I feel great when people are like, oh, this has helped me so much. Thank you for sharing this. So I'm like, that's why I do. I don't do it for the $200 a month I get from the ads.
Right.
It's to help people.
Yeah. Well, and so essentially it kind of sounds like you created the resource that you sort of wish was out there when you
Right.
started,
Absolutely.
which is basically the genesis of mine as well, was like, I did the same thing of like
Right.
research. I found some like reptile people that had to keep crickets alive for, you know, they're like lizard and stuff. And that's
Mhm.
how I learned how to raise
Raise them.
crickets.
Yeah.
And so I was like, and I'm the same as you of like, I started mine in 2020
Hmm.
because everything shut down. I wasn't speaking, I wasn't doing events. I was like, I have time. Like, this is a good time to start a
Right.
YouTube channel. And that was what I did. I was just like, what would I have wanted, you know, 2 years ago when I started this? If I go back and look at those videos, I like can't even watch them.
Right.
Like, what were you doing?
Right.
Like, this is not how you do that. And these videos are horrible.
Right.
Like, who did this?
My videos are still bad, but I don't care.
So
like,
are mine. Like,
People are like, oh, I edit for like 5 hours. I'm like, I don't have time. I'm like, I'm holding the camera like this, and it's all shot by me. Once in a while, I'll put it on a stand if I'm like painting,
yes.
and then I edit it so like no more than an hour. If it takes me more than an hour, like, and if you really watch some of my videos, there's like tons of errors in them.
Yeah.
Like where you can tell I should have cut that out but forgot to, type of things. And then once in a while, at the very end, I'll leave like a 2-3 minute gap of nothing and then put bloopers in just to see if anyone catches them.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of funny, but I've never had anyone comment like, oh, at the end of the video, that was hilarious.
Yeah. Have you had any of your, I mean, you've been at like trade shows and stuff where people have been like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, I know you, like, da da da. Have you had anybody like just call you up?
All the time.
Same.
Tons.
So,
Emails and calls.
and when they call you, are they surprised that you answer?
I used to answer, I don't anymore. So if I don't recognize the number, I
You
don't
don't
answer.
answer.
Because I would spend so much time, because it's tons of questions. And
Yeah.
I'm a very nice, helpful person. I'm not going to hang up and be like, sorry, I can't do this right now.
Right.
So we actually started offering like consultation. So you can pay to have a half hour of my time or an hour of my time.
Yeah, as
so
you should.
it weeds out all the people that are just looking for free stuff. And I try to answer as many questions on the videos that they ask, but you just don't have time to do it. So
Right. And that's kind of, so I've had a few people like call me up, and it's been funny when they like call and I answer, they're like, oh,
wait, are you the one from the video?
no, they're like, oh, I'm talking to the boss. And I'm like, I'm sorry, who is this?
How
First-
big do you think this company is?
Yes, I'm like, thank you for thinking that this is a big deal.
Yeah, it's very flattering sometimes.
But it is kind of strange. But so I kind of have the same policy on my side of like, I'll take the call. That's fine. But I prefer email. Email
Right.
me your questions,
Yeah,
and I will get back to you when I can. And then also understand that these questions are going to get turned into a video.
right.
Like, and they just,
I do that a lot too, because they give you your material. They're like, a lot of people are asking this. They must want to know, go film the video.
Yeah.
And I've had people email me, and I email them back. I'm like, I'm shooting a video right now for you.
Yeah.
It will be up later.
yep. And so I think, and that, I mean, then we get paid for the ads. Like, that's
Right.
it. Because for me in 2020, you know, education on the like edible insects thing is really big, like getting to talk to people, all that stuff. So I was already trying to think of like, how do I scale myself?
Right.
You know, and like, how do I give the most resources to people? And so YouTube just seemed like a good way to do it. And so, yeah, I try to direct people in the videos.
There's a lot of reach. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you can also tell, I'm sure you can tell when you get questions or you're talking to somebody, if they really haven't like gone through.
And looked. Oh yeah, all the
Yeah.
time.
And so I'm just like, go look at this.
Right.
Like, I'm not.
It's even worse, like, because now I sell equipment. So a company, the best thing that's ever come from YouTube, other than like the flattering stuff people say to you, like, oh, you've helped me so much and stuff like that, is a company in Turkey reached out to me about selling their equipment, which I'd never heard of. I thought it was just junk that someone pieced together, and they were like, oh, this guy's on YouTube and people follow him. But then they sent me one. I tried it. I was like, dang, this thing's really good. I met them at a trade show. It was their first time in America. And so I signed up to be a US distributor. Well, I'll sell a gun to somebody, and then they'll call me up or email me and be like, I don't know, this isn't working and this isn't doing this. How do I clean this out? And I'm like, did you watch my channel? Go to the video, and I'll like copy the video and send it to them. Like, go watch it. If you have more questions, let me know. And
Yeah.
I never hear back. So
Right.
a lot of people are just, they don't want to take that time to look. And
Sure.
that happens in forums a lot too. I don't know if you're on a lot of Facebook groups, where the same question gets asked over and over again.
Yes.
And all you have to do is hit the search button and type it in.
Yes.
People don't know.
No,
They just don't know what to
realize
do.
that function is there.
Right.
Yeah, I'm actually.
You should do a video on the function of Facebook, how to search for answers.
That one actually might pop up and get some. That might be my viral one, but that would be so far beyond the scope of generally what I talk about that
Right.
probably wouldn't make a lot of sense. But so with the YouTube thing, like, are you then trying to grow that channel? Like, you said $200 a month's not much, but
Right.
it's also better than nothing. And the other thing is, and I keep saying this to myself, I have a monetized YouTube channel.
Right.
That feels like an untapped resource.
Right.
for
If you
people.
put more effort into it.
Yes. So are you thinking in 2024? I know you said really busy, like
Yep.
you're just hiring. Like, are you hoping then that you can get some more
I
videos?
have a lot of big aspirations. So I think if you're an entrepreneur, your brain is just always like, where else can I pull another source of income or what? It's not about the money either. It's almost just like the challenge. Like, where can I go to get more of this? And so, like, when I bought the building across the street, I was like, I've got this cash. Let's just invest it. It's safer than the stock market. I have an asset that I can have, even if it's not bringing income. But the channel, it wouldn't be for money, but it does give you exposure to more people. So there's a lot of companies that reach out to me that provide products or services to the powder coating world that reach out. So my goal is to create more partnerships with those kinds of companies, maybe get sponsorships or stuff like that going. There's a lot of powder coating events where I feel like they do like round tables and stuff that I'd love to be a part of just to get my name out there more, because I really enjoy the teaching aspect of it. So in fact, in 2 weeks, I'm going to Wisconsin to a place that bought a gun from me and they wanted training. So I'm actually my first paid gig to go train people. And it's a lot, like it's stupid amount of money. Cause I'm like, if I'm leaving work, I have to keep my overhead covered. So they're paying the travel expense, all that. And it's a pretty good deal, but they're also getting any knowledge they want without having to jump through all those hoops. So they're going to save a ton of time, a ton of frustration, all that kind of stuff. So I'd love to do more training. And I think with YouTube, I can try and pull more of those types of customers. So it's not really about like getting that ad revenue, but just working with more companies and people. And
It's authority building.
yeah,
It's authority
basically
building within
in the
your
industry. Yep.
Which that's also another reason why I do the YouTube thing.
Right.
It makes me the expert on
Right.
shooting crickets.
And you don't even have to know anything. People just think you're an expert because you're willing to put yourself out there.
Well, and that is the thing, though. That's the thing. And I always encourage people. I'm trying to convince Willie that we need to put together like basic how-tos on landscaping of like edging and things like that.
I've watched so many videos of people power washing sidewalks. It's stupid.
Yeah,
I don't even want to admit it.
Yeah.
But you just get hooked. You're like, dang, that looks nice when he's all done.
it does. If you like look at it at the beginning and you're like, man, that's really. I wonder what it's gonna look
Right.
like when it's all. Yes, I know. There's
The
tons of
doom
that.
scrolling.
Yes, there's
Yeah.
tons of that, but it's one of those things that I wish I would have started earlier. I
Right.
think you probably are the same.
You'd
as
have so
well.
much more traction.
Yeah, and so I always encourage people, even if you don't feel like you have anything to talk about or say
Right.
or whatever, like even the most basics of basics. And like I said with Willie's stuff, I'm like, if you do the how-to stuff, I said you're going to get the people that wouldn't have been your customers
Right.
anyway. They just want to know how to do it.
Right.
So you're not like,
Yeah, the channel does not, I don't know how yours, and I'd like to hear it actually. I maybe had 5 customers from my YouTube channel that have like from New York shipped me parts because they're like, I want no one to touch this but you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, they're way better powder coaters than me.
Yeah.
Way better.
But thank you.
Yes, but I don't do it for that reach. So, but I'm a very like, people aren't going to ship a set of wheels most likely to me from, across the country. But that was never the goal to expand my business through it. It was just like, I have time, I want to teach people. But on your side, like, are you gaining?
No. So like my side, especially on like before I kind of diversified my content, obviously, like I started an actual YouTube channel for the whole 214 main
Yep.
renovation
Yep.
thing because I wanted to have that separate for multitude of strategic reasons.
Right.
But then like as we started getting busier and like I got monetized, I was like, why would I not put these on my monetized channel?
Yep.
And like get the ad revenue. I'm already putting the time in. And so I started like
And expand the audience.
yeah, exactly. So I kind of cross-pollinated between the two, and so now it's all in one, and it's got these podcasts on it, so it's
Yep.
kind of all over the map now. But like the people who are there for the cricket content,
Mhm.
there for like the how-to.
Right.
you might have a few people, like I have people all over the world, as you probably do too.
Yep.
So like I have a lot of like European cricket farms that are happening, things like that, where they're like, well, help me, like nobody else is gonna help me.
Right.
And so I do, but more often than not, it's like reptile owners with like small stuff.
Just for the growing of them, yeah.
Yeah. So it's more focused on that side. They're not like interested in my product and I don't like sell the product that way necessarily. But for me, it was more of a like, here's how I do this.
Teaching,
Yeah. Nobody else is going to tell you how to do this.
Yep.
And in the reptile world, like crickets are expensive. They go for like 20 cents a pop.
Right.
At a feed store sort of situation. And so they want to keep them live because their animal requires live fed. Like they're really finicky. So that's, I would say, majority of that audience is that.
Right.
So it was never meant to be a
sells way.
Yeah. Because I don't feel like that feels authentic. I feel like that people can pick up on that on a YouTube channel because you just are in longer form. Like it's harder to be that marketing phony in a longer form setting. But
absolutely. I agree 100%. Yeah, with the bringing the other brands in, I just like you, I had actually thought about doing a podcast like this one exactly like 3-4 years ago, interviewed like 4 people. It's still sitting on my hard drive. It hasn't done anything because I'm like, man, I don't really have time to do another one. Yeah. And then I was like, well, I actually put a poll out to my viewers and I'm like, do you want to see like more how-tos, more cool stuff, or just like my life? So I feel like you build a relationship with them you don't know you're building, which is why people are telling me they know who I am. So I'm like, I'm gonna do more of like what I like with my basement that I'm finishing at home and like working on my cars and that kind of stuff. And a lot of people send me products to like try and review, and I'm like, I had a company send me a welder. I'm like, this has nothing to do with powder coating. And before I would have been like, okay, I'm gonna put this on my personal channel, but they're going after my big channel because it has actual subscribers. My personal one's like 300. Right. So I'm like, I'm just like you, I'm gonna put everything towards my powder coating channel. It may not be a powder coating thing, and you're probably gonna lose some viewers because they're like, why isn't he talking about powder coating? But I think you'll expand and reach more people that way too.
Well, and at the end of the day too, and like I said before we hit record on this, like I get sick of saying the same, you get sick of having the same conversations over and over and answering the same questions. Like those are the basics and the crux of the business that you're in. But the reality of it is like you're a whole person. Like you're not just powder coating, you're not just crickets. Right. So we have other interests, and like you said, you've had those followers that have been with you from the beginning. Like they are loyal, and they actually do. It's weird because they're like, you're like, they don't know me, but they watched you for hours and hours. Like,
well, it's cool that they've seen like the shop change and grow too, because people they also think you're way bigger than you are. I know. They're like, man, or I've met people and they're like, you look taller on camera, and I'm like, I'm 6'2". How tall did you think I was? So it's just funny to hear all that stuff too. But yeah, it's cool to meet those people because of that. It's like, I guess if you've watched every video, you've seen everything, and you're not going to be mad if I show you some personal stuff and some outside stuff. So.
Not at all. And yeah, it just keeps your interest longer and keeps your content fresh, if you will. Right. But so kind of talking about that expansion thing, like talk to me a little bit about your decision to get, one time you were like ready to peace out of Collins. You were ready to sell this, looking on.
I've always read, not that I don't like Collins, I just like to grow.
Yeah, you just need a bigger space, and wherever that space is going to be viable, that's just kind of what you do. So talk to me about, you put up, that was what, 22 you put up that corner building? So you put up a new building in 22, you bought another building this year. Like what are your plans? What's your plans with your new building on the corner? Like, is that functional? Is that the way you want it? Like, is there more? Like, what's the plan?
When we were looking to leave, it's basically the town is cut off. There's not any expansion. So to be able to expand, we're going to have to either buy farmland, or Landis would have to leave or something like that. So we put a bid in on a place in Newton that was like 30,000 square feet. Oh, dang. Yeah. So they wanted like $1 million for it. And I'm like, yeah, I'll offer you $500,000. So we were going back and forth for a little bit, and they basically said, we're not going to do the deal. So that's when we were serious, but we were looking for something like that. It's so hard to find like 10 to 20,000 square feet for less than $1 million, which is just out of reach. So, Patterson, the guy who kind of owned everything here, had this empty lot. When I first bought the building, he offered to sell it to me. And I'm like, what would I use that for? It's 25 foot wide. Yeah. And so as my options kind of got smaller and smaller, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can use that. So with the math of it, it's 130 foot deep. So it comes to like 3,300 square feet. So we basically just put it up for storage for now because we had outgrown all of our equipment and stuff was just getting bottled up in there, and we needed room for customers' product while we were coating it and waiting. And so right now it's just cold storage. We kind of ran out of cash to get the electrical all set up because we were so deep in it. But the goal was to originally take our custom side over there. So, retail people come in with this or that, we could do it over there and it wouldn't interrupt our conveyor system or line. So that's still kind of the goal now, but we'll see where it goes. I mean, we're busy enough that if we could get into a bigger spot, we could really utilize it. So I don't have any plans of selling anything or moving out of town, but that's what it was for. And it's still, I'm getting quotes on electrical right now to get that up and going. So it would actually require us to hire another person or two to work over on that side. So that'd be good. We only hire one person from town, but we do pull from outside of town. So we're actually bringing people here. Not that there's anything to do or buy, but.
Yeah.
So, and then with the new building, like I said before, it was actually the hailstorm that went through. And all my buildings are metal, so they look ugly now, but I wasn't going to fix them.
Yeah.
That's why. So it wasn't going to add value to the buildings or anything. So it was either just throw it into the bank or invest it and try and earn some revenue on it. So I've always wanted to kind of get into rental properties, and I think commercial's a better way to go than like buying houses or stuff. Or if you went to like multi-complex and apartments and stuff.
Yeah. Just, yeah. Ooh, man.
But then you think about the managing aspect of it. It's like, man, do I really want to manage all that? And the nice thing is it's right in town here. So
Sure.
if something happened and they needed me to fix something or be there for something, it's not far away.
Yeah. And honestly, like, it'd be a nice little office for you guys if you wanted to get your office out of your building.
Right.
Situation.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people thought that's what we bought it for. And I won't be hurt if we can't run out. We actually there's a haircut person in there now.
Yep.
And she just moved to the back room where there used to be a massage girl. And then the front's being rented out by a guy who's going to do like consignment stuff. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
I'm pretty lean. I'm too nice with this stuff. None of them have a 12-year or 12-month lease.
Yeah.
I'm going month to month with them because I don't want them to get locked in and go poor or anything like that. So,
Yeah.
if it helps the city out a little bit, it helps them out.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and in a place like Collins, you kind of have to foster people trying stuff.
right.
You know,
Oh, absolutely.
it's just, yeah, there's a lot. You got to crack some eggs to make some omelets, as
Right.
they say.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just an interesting little town. But yeah, so I was like, oh, that'd make a nice little office if you ever needed that extra space.
Right.
If you needed to knock down some walls in your shop and
Right.
get a bigger oven in there, sort of situation.
Yeah.
But
It just wouldn't free up enough space for us. Like, it's
Yeah.
not worth the labor to do it.
To do it.
Because someone brought that up to me too, and they're like, are you going to move your office there? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
If anything, I'd like to buy the brick building right next to my new metal one.
and then to knock the wall down.
Well, not even that. We would just use that for offices.
Right.
Because it's already there.
Yeah.
And I would actually like to renovate the top just as like an apartment. Because I think there's tons of people that want to live in this town.
Yeah.
Like it's quiet.
Mm-hmm.
You're not bothered.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It just seems like houses that go for sale are sold immediately. And
Yeah.
I don't know why. Because there's no like convenience to living here.
Yeah.
There's no like I mean, there's one restaurant, but
Yeah.
there's not a
There's not grocery.
convenience store. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
you gotta drive it. I mean, I live out in the country, so I'm no different, but I wouldn't live in a town to not have anything, but I don't know how you get there in a town this size. Like, how do you get to the point where you're actually having convenience things put into the town?
Yeah. You need more population. Like
That's what I'm saying. How do you grow that?
well, you need some developers. They need some people to sell some farmland or
Right.
outside of town.
And then
situation.
someone with a ton of money. you know?
Yeah, there's steps to do it. It's just I think
And
you
most people here don't even want that to happen.
no, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It doesn't mean it won't happen.
Right.
It just makes it possibly a rockier road to get there,
Right.
which is what it is.
Right.
So, yeah. So then, what is if you had advice for somebody that was looking at maybe starting a business in a small town, going to invest in a small town, what would you tell them?
Don't count on the town to support your business. which we kind of covered before. Like that's the reason it's worked for me, and I think it works for you. And even Robbie, who does the tattoos, he had such a following from working for other people that they're willing to travel that 30, 40 minutes to come to him because he's that good. Um, I it's kind of crazy with the powder coating because I came as a wheel repair company and we weren't reliant on the people in the area. But with powder coating, you kind of are. And there's so many competitors. I think there's 15 to 20 powder coaters within 40-mile radius of me.
Mhm.
So it doesn't benefit me to be somewhere else per se, but like being closer to Des Moines might pull more customers from down south or something. A lot of people, it's weird from the Des Moines area. If you tell them Collins, they look it up and they're like, oh, it's 35 miles. And I'm like, well, how long does it take you to get from West Des Moines to Ankeny? 30 minutes. It's the same.
Literally the same. And
Except
what
for
is
you have no
traffic?
traffic. Like during the fall, you'll get stuck behind a tractor once in a while, but that's about it. And
Yes.
I actually don't mind the drive. It's kind of a calm down period on the way home. And it's kind of, you get the kids to school and then it's quiet on the way up. I listen to a book on tape and
Yeah.
it's relaxing to me, but I think people just fear, they're like, oh, I don't even know where that's at. And then they look and it's like, oh, it's too far. So it's getting people over that thought. But yeah, unless you, I don't even know, because I've racked my brain on like, what business could you start in a town of 400 to 500 people and survive based on that town?
Yeah.
And I don't think there is one.
I think it,
Unless you are like a property management company, you own all the houses.
right. Yeah. No, seriously. Like, and that is unfortunately a reality of a lot of really
Mhm.
small towns. And that's why a lot of main streets die
Right.
because either they don't, either people like you and I who run the businesses styles that we do
Mhm.
don't think to go look in the small towns, or those small towns are not making it known that they
Right.
have, they're not listing their building on
Right.
the right site. Like
Right.
there's just something is not working.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know how you solve that problem.
Right. But I think as a business owner, it makes sense because you can pick up property for so cheap.
Relative.
Because it's,
Yes.
yeah, it's so hard to sell them in those towns because the
Yes.
people that live there don't want it.
Right.
But I mean, that's what drew me was the price. I was
Mhm.
like, man, I can't find this anywhere
Same.
else.
Yep. Same.
So,
Yeah. So I don't know. I totally agree with you. But anyways, anything else that you would like the people to know? Any like crazy other, no more powder coating pizzas or anything like
no, we
that?
haven't done anything like that lately.
What are you most excited about in the next 12 months?
Um, if I can get the people trained that I have and I can focus more on growing the business, growing the sales and getting back to doing fun things like you two. I think you get so stuck in the like getting the production done and getting out that you forget that like you got into the business probably because you had passion for it or running a business and then you're stuck in your daily tasks. So 2024, I don't like to make resolutions, but my whole thing is like get back to having fun and doing things you enjoy doing and not always having to work in the business, but able to work on the business.
Yeah.
Which when you're a small business, it seems like all you do is work in it.
Right.
So-
You don't own a small business owns you.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's my goal in 2024 is to have more fun and work on the things I want to work on.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I really enjoyed this conversation.
You're very good at this.
Thank you. I hope that you liked it as well.
I don't think I could have ran one podcast because I just wouldn't be able to do the questions.
No, but if you seem like a curious person, so I think that you could.
Yeah.
Because you just gotta be curious. Like,
Right.
questions come up.
That's true.
So
All right. Appreciate it.
thanks guys.
Yep.
Sweet.